So we'll just hit on all that stuff right away. And then Connor, when we're at the end, we'll get back into the Blue Jays, like in the
Let's do it.
last segment. I'll just do like 10 minutes with Joey just to
sweet. Perfect.
Fill people in on what's up with the Seabs.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
All right, fire up the countdown.
This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remus.
Well, what's going on, everybody? Hope you had a great weekend. It was a hell of a sports weekend. Unfortunately, for us Bomber fans, did not end up the way we were hoping to. A heartbreaker 26-25 loss in Calgary on a walk-off from Rene Paredes ended up putting a bit of a damper on the festivities. But I will tell you, and we'll get into this with Connor, and certainly tomorrow on CFL 110 with Jeff Hamilton, that was maybe the best weekend of Canadian football games I can ever remember. Now, listen, I didn't go through every single week of games over the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years, but I'm willing to hear arguments because every one of the 4 games in the CFL was an absolute thriller. You had the first 3 games averaging over 70 points and a 51-point game between Winnipeg and Calgary, which featured some of the some huge plays. And, of course, what could have been one of the most historic field goals in the Canadian Football League by Sergio Castillo. Unfortunately, Calgary was left enough time to come back and get the win. Listen, we're going to dive into that. Connor and I will right off the hop. We'll hear from Mike O'Shea and Zach Collaros post-game. And we will also welcome in our pal Josh Frey-Sam to get his thoughts as we look forward to this huge game on Thursday, I should say, against the Ottawa Red Blacks, coming off their massive comeback. I mean, just think about this for a minute. The 2 teams that won on Saturday in the Canadian Football League, one was down 22-1 and ended up winning 46-42. The other one was down 17-0 and ended up, unfortunately, coming back for a 1-point win. It really was a quintessential CFL weekend, about as good as it gets. The situation for the Bombers, though, could be a lot better, and we're going to dive into that. Brandon Rewucki is going to jump on with us. I'm sure Brandon was paying attention to the games on the weekend. We'll touch on that. Absolutely epic Blue Jays game yesterday as well. Tell me if you had Mason Fluharty being the hero, taking out Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts back-to-back in the 9th inning for a win. I don't think you did, but I'm sure you enjoyed it. We'll touch on that. And I'm sure we'll get to some more NHL offseason as well when Brandon jumps on. Seab Bears season is finished, but they're not done yet because, of course, they are in the championship weekend. A couple nice wins at home, lost yesterday. Slats will come on for 10 minutes or so and tee up the next couple weeks for the Seab Bears as they get ready to try to pull off a couple upsets and be CNBL champions on account of being here in the host city. So, hey, we got a big show today. There's a lot to get to. Shout out to everybody in chat. I know you love the little look behind the scenes beforehand, people having some fun with that. But, hey, hit that thumbs up button. Son of Dirk saying Hoffman walked 4 batters. Actually, Hoffman walked 5. And here's a stat for you. Connor and I were talking about this earlier this morning. This Jeff Hoffman became the first pitcher since at least 1901 to surrender at least 5 or more walks in less of an inning of work and get credited with a win. That was one wild baseball game yesterday. So lots of football, lots of baseball, a little bit of pucks, some hoops later on. We got a full slate here on WST. Listen, just before I bring in Connor, Remus on the holidays this week. Shout out to him. Well earned. Hope he enjoys it. Do want to thank our partners. I know Jake's in the chat. Jake's loving Connor's lid today, and you'll know why in a minute. Shout out to our friends at Coolbet Canada. Of course, Princess Auto, Manitoba Battery, St. Vital Dental Center, Rollies Transfer, Canadian Club, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, the Winnipeg Gold Eyes, who are still back at home this week. Nice weekend for the Fish. Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend, where I think I'll be doing the show tomorrow. I'll tell you more about that a little bit later on. We'll get to a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. And, of course, plenty of time for fan feedback from all of you. Brought to you by fansfirst.ca. Let's get her going. Welcome to everybody in chat, and welcome to Connor Hrabchak. Connor, what's up? How was your weekend? I heard that you were kind of busy over the last few days.
Yeah, I've been going through a move here, so it's been a busy time. I still had time to sit down and watch the Bomber game, and as much as it sucked, losing on a walk-off field goal, still an awesome game. And what a week it was in the CFL. I made time for all of those games, and I'm sure glad that I did. I mean, the overtime game on Thursday night, which feels like a lifetime ago, between Hamilton and BC, was maybe the best game of the weekend. But it has a lot of competition for best game of the weekend because there are a lot there. And then yesterday, found time for the Jays game too. I didn't get the first couple innings, but I got the Mason Fluharty back-to-back strikeout, he struck out Ohtani and then got Betts to roll over, but back-to-back outs with the bases loaded, bottom 9 against 2 surefire Hall of Famers. Like that is just unbelievable stuff. I don't think he's ever going to have a bigger save in his life unless he, has the save in Game 7 of the World Series. That was such an electric game on Sunday. So we got a lot to get to. Big weekend of sports, awesome weekend in the CFL. I'm glad to be here all week long chopping it up with you. And then Remus and I are going to tag out because next week I'm on vacation. So we're kind of swapping here. I'm filling in for Remus. And then Remus will be back next week while I head her out to Banff. So I'm excited.
Some things never change. The Rock of WST will be here Monday to Friday for all of you. These guys enjoy their vacations and all these things. No, it's hey, this is a good time to do it. We know things are going to get crazy come September and Winnipeg Jet training camp. So now certainly is the time to do it. I just quickly, before we dive into the Bombers, Fluharty actually struck out Ohtani twice.
Yes.
I mean, the first time that check swing, and listen, I guess if you're Shohei Ohtani, because he is, in my opinion, the greatest player ever, certainly the greatest player of our lifetimes that we've ever seen play. And I guess he's going to get the odd favorable call, not that he needs it. But for him to do it and then come back, nails getting it out with the bases loaded. I mean, there wasn't an open base for him to come on. That would have been a disaster too. So, oh man, it was a hell of a way to finish up a series that started off with a couple drubbings right now. But Connor, let's get to the Bombers. I mean, we'll talk about all the CFL games and kind of dive into a few of those maybe a little bit later on. And you make a great point. I mean, I said on Friday's show, I mean, that BC Hamilton game might have been the game of the year. And then there was certainly another one that gave it a run for its money in the Toronto-Ottawa. And then 2 games that maybe didn't have the points, but certainly had the drama at the end in the Edmonton game and the Winnipeg game. But for the Winnipeg game, I mean, I woke up yesterday morning going, how the hell did they lose that game? But it was pretty clear. I mean, Calgary spotted them the 17 points. And from that, literally from the moment that Vernon Adams finally completed a pass that would have been for a first down, it happened to go 70 plus for a touchdown. From that moment, it seemed like Calgary knew exactly what they needed to do against the Bomber defense to exploit the holes in the lineup. And the offense just simply could not get out of first gear. And listen, when I look back at this game, I mean, obviously the secondary is in shambles right now. I thought the offensive line had a tough time, and that was a big reason why Brady Oliveira did so much damage in the air as opposed to on the ground. Brady Oliveira was the best player for the Bombers. I mean, he was trying to will that team alone to victory. I thought Willie Jefferson had a few moments as well, and they needed all of that, and they were still unable to come up short. I mean, there's a lot of places to be concerned right now, Connor, but what is left of this defense and secondary was not even competitive at times in the second half, and that is a very, very tough way to find wins on the road against a quality team like Calgary and VA.
Yeah, this Bomber game is weird for me, Huss, because we've had a few days to think about it now. And there's two sides to it. It's a missed opportunity, absolutely. And I think that's where you have to start because, like you said, 17-0 lead. Brady Oliveira looked great. The offense was clicking. The defense was shutting down VA. You didn't have a first down until that long touchdown, like you said. That was, a great start. And then to lose that game in the way that they did it in the second half, too, very disappointing. But if going into the game, you would have told me that they would lose on a walk-off field goal, lose by 1, on the road against Calgary, where they were, a 6.5-point underdog, and they wouldn't have Terrell Bonds, like their only healthy starting corner for the entire second half of the game, I would have said, oh, okay, that's all right. Like the Bombers played pretty well then. But the game unfolded how the game unfolded, and I think we can all agree that it was a missed opportunity because of the lead they got out to, because of how strong they looked in the first half, and Zach was slinging it 40 yards downfield to Brady Oliveira running a streak. Like, it seemed like everything was working for the offense. Jarrett Stearns wide open for a touchdown. But the second half, I think, because of the injury to Terrell Bonds and kind of what is going on in the secondary and all the different players playing that position, I think the offense and their inability to move the ball in the second half should wear maybe the majority of the blame for not putting that game away earlier. And again, they were one first down away from kicking their own game-winning field goal. They got stopped. Surge, absolute money as always. 63 yarder.
Come on, 63?
That was unbelievable. Like, this guy can be counted on for 63 yarders with a minute left in a 2-point game. Like, that is incredible stuff from Sergio Castillo. But again, like I said, if the Bombers get one more first down on that drive, they're kicking their own game-winning field goal from 50, whatever. And again, Serge hit 63. He's definitely going to hit 50, whatever. So there's a lot of angles to attack from this Bomber game, and I'm excited to talk it all here.
Yeah, listen, I mean, they didn't have the turnovers that plagued them in the earlier games, and I think that's why it was close. Obviously with the turnovers before the pick sixes, I mean, that's why Calgary was beating them by 20 as opposed to on a walk-off. And yeah, overall, I mean, by the score, it absolutely was close. But really, after about the first 20 minutes of the football game, it really did feel like it was all Calgary. And listen, Zach did not turn the football over, but how many times did he get sacked on second and whatever? And I mean, listen, I'll always prefer a quarterback to, not throw it an ill-advised pass that could be more damaging. But the bottom line is you have to be able to figure out a way to move the chains and, get first downs. And, in the last 40 minutes of the game, they just weren't really able to do that. And listen, I will give some credit to the Calgary defense. They've been excellent all year long. But, with Zach coming back into the lineup, with Stanley Bryant there, you were really expecting a little bit more consistent play from the offense, and that just simply wasn't there, and it hasn't been there. Connor, I was getting sort of deja vu about the offense in the second half of that game to the offense in the Grey Cup, where you've got the players out there, but it just wasn't clicking, and more often than not, it was just tough to move the chains, and a lot of times you were kicking the ball, you were giving it back to Calgary. And listen, there's a couple. Willie Jefferson made a play that was worth 4 points that turned a touchdown into a field goal. There was a terrible drop on Calgary's part that ended up basically taking some points off the board. There were opportunities for the Bombers to get back in, and listen, to go and win that football game. And the biggest regret I have is kind of what you'd said, the inability to do what they seem to always do in the fourth quarter. Grind it out. Move the chains, win the time of possession, control the football. And they were one first down short. And I was surprised, honestly, that they threw Sergio out there for a 63-yarder just because, I mean, it's a 63-yarder. It's an all-time record-tying field goal in the Canadian Football League. But you understood why they did it. the problem was you still had to rely on that defense. And I'm sorry, but the defense, even before Bonds was out, you had some concerns. I mean, man, you want to talk about a tough day at the office. Poor Jake Kelly got introduced to the Canadian Football League in a big, big way on Saturday. And listen, it all come together and you end up in a situation, Connor, like this was a real high leverage game. Calgary already had the season series, so it wasn't about that. But the Bombers could have been ahead of Calgary in the standings if they had won 5-3 versus 5-4. Well, now Calgary is way ahead of them. 6-3. Bombers are 4-4. Third place. Big gap between SAS, Calgary, and Winnipeg, BC. And Nathan Rourke's heating up right now. BC seems to have a little bit of momentum. They're a half game back, which brings up this huge game on Thursday. Like, I didn't think we'd be talking about a Winnipeg-Ottawa that had huge crossover implications before Labor Day. But guess what? That is basically where we're at right now with this team at 500 and not trending as well as many of the teams that are frankly below them right now in the standings.
Yeah, Huss, I just to quickly go back on your point about the Bombers' inability to put the game away that we've seen them do year after year, like running back after running back, Harris, Oliveira, O-line, doesn't matter. They put games away in the fourth. It was even more shocking that they couldn't do that because of how effective Brady Oliveira was in the first half. He had 146 total scrimmage yards. He finished with 100 yards receiving in total. And yeah, I said on the WST Bombers report that came out this morning as well, this is a big game for the crossover coming up here because BC is 4-5 and Winnipeg's 4-4. But like you said, Nathan Rourke seems to be heating up. Buck Pierce, he's maybe learning his offense a little bit more. Rourke is as the weeks go along here. And they could be a team that could, rattle off a ton of wins in a row. And you look at who's coming to town. And we talked about the secondary being an issue. Well, guess what? The Ottawa Red Blacks are coming to town and they love to throw the football. Last week, Drew Brown had 373 passing yards and 5 touchdowns against the Toronto Argonauts. So if Parker, who was on the 1-game injured list at corner, remains out, Terrell Bonds, again, the Bombers aren't practicing today, so we don't really have an update on anyone's health in the secondary. But if these corners aren't playing, you're going up against one of the most prolific passing offenses in the CFL by stats and by how they're playing right now. I mean, they just hung 46 on the Toronto Argonauts with Drew Brown passing for 5 passing touchdowns. So this is a big game. The D-line is going to have to create a lot of pressure to cover for the DBs. And then the offense, which we've talked about all season long, it's going to have to be a lot better. Going to have to limit the turnovers, which they did. Although the one turnover they did have in Calgary was a stinger because it was Chris Streveler on 3rd and short, which is usually money. I mean, the TSN broadcast, it's almost like Dusty was trying to jinx us.
Oh, yeah.
He kept saying, they're perfect on 3rd down with Chris Streveler. And then he gets stuffed, of course. But no, that one stung because that was points taken off the board for the Blue Bombers. So the offense is going to have to keep limiting those turnovers, stay on the field, keep Brady Oliveira involved. And the defense is going to try and have to hide this injured secondary as best as possible against Drew Brown.
Hey, Andrew, if you could tee up Coach O'Shea, we'll let people hear what O'Shea had to say after the game. Remember this bit from the chat. Wesley, Triple R. It's all setting up a crossover for a Banjo Bowl Grey Cup.
Can you imagine?
Listen, I have been to a Bomber Rider Grey Cup in Toronto, and it was in Toronto, and it was electric, and it was Bombers and Riders fans taking over downtown. It was the same, of course, that was the Dinwiddie start, and Bisons did win the Vanier that weekend, which was nice. But a Dare to Dream, I would... Listen, there is something to be said about the crossover this year. But I mean, to be honest with you, Hamilton's really good. Montreal's good. I mean, winning on the road of both of those would be tough. Bombers got to find a way to win Thursday and then take it from there. But listen, this was a tight one. We're wondering what we'd hear from Mike O'Shea afterwards. This is his post-game availability. Here's what Coach had to say to the media after the heartbreaker 26-25 loss in Calgary Saturday. All right, so there's Coach O'Shea speaking after the game. And listen, Connor, I didn't expect Mike to come out all guns blazing. Listen, he knows where his team is at right now. And I don't think tough love is going to change anything. I mean, I think he sits back and realizes that his team is really up against it right now with the personnel they're putting out, especially on the defensive side of the football. And I don't know whether the 2025 Winnipeg Blue Bombers are set up to put up 30 plus points against just about anybody. Outside of maybe Edmonton when
without Sean as well.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it really does lean on the defense, and the defense looked really good in the first couple of weeks. But man, what has happened to the secondary? Tell you what, I wouldn't have minded having Marquise Bridges on the sidelines on the weekend. I mean, I don't know how he went from the starting lineup to a backup to the practice roster to cut in 2 weeks. I would imagine he probably didn't handle the demotion well, and they said, "Okay, we're done with you." But they were just simply lost in the secondary, and then when Bonds went down, that just took a problem and made it even bigger. And listen, a quarterback like Vernon Adams, he'll make you pay, and he has done that now 3 times to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And this is the crazy thing for this week is that, I mean, it's a quick turnaround. Fortunately, Ottawa played on Saturday as well, so both teams are in the same situation. But the team looked at film yesterday, off today, 1 day of practice tomorrow, a walkthrough on Wednesday, and right back at it. I mean, I don't know how much we can expect the team to, are guys going to all of a sudden be back and be ready for that time? I mean, this might be the group that they have to go out and try and figure out how to stop the Drew Brown passing attack, which was insane on Saturday, coming back from that 22-1 loss or a deficit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I will say, I share your thoughts there that I didn't expect Mike O'Shea. I mean, he rarely ever does come out to the press conference, guns a-blazing, outlining every single thing that went wrong in a game. But I mean, let's face it, moral victories in week 10, getting swept, 3 straight losses against the Calgary Stampeders sucks. But I think that's where the Bombers are going to have to go with this. If you take away, the standard that the Bombers have set the last number of years here, and just view this year in a vacuum, they got blown out by Calgary twice. Both of those games, I mean, the first one, Zach threw 2 bad pick sixes. The second one, Zach got hurt, and Chris Strevler came in, threw a bad pick in the red zone, offense, turnovers. That was the issue there. Then recently, these last number of weeks, the secondary has been a big problem, especially in the Toronto games. And they overcame that in one of them. And now you come to this game. And again, like I said, I know no one wants to hear the moral victories, storyline from this game, but they did lose by 1 against Calgary on the road as one of the best teams in the West with VA. And I think that's where the Bombers' mindset is going to be on this short week. I don't think they can get too down on themselves as they turn around and play this big game that could be big later down the road for the crossover, but is big regardless, to keep the Bombers above 500, get them to 5-4. Then they go on the road in Montreal next Thursday, August 21st. And then that brings them to the Labor Day Banjo Bowl home and home against the West Division leading Saskatchewan Roughriders. So the schedule gets very tough here. Ottawa, like we said, could be a bad matchup because of the secondary health issues. You get Montreal, Saskatchewan twice, Hamilton, back against Ottawa, Hamilton again. So tough times, tough schedule ahead for the Bombers. They got to figure it out quick here.
Andrew, let's hear from Zach right now if you want to tee that up. I mean, I'll say one thing. The offense is going to need to figure out how to score some points at a much better clip than they did after that hot start, because this Drew Brown-led offense is going to get theirs. And listen, that's going to put a lot on the shoulders of the quarterback. Speaking of the quarterback, here's what Zach had to say after the loss in Calgary Saturday. All right, so there you have it from Zach. I mean, listen, it is the MO of the Bombers to be very even-keeled. You heard that from Coach O'Shea. You heard that from Zach. And I'm not sitting here telling you that, you need someone to set up and be a rah-rah guy and rip everyone, because I think the problems the team's having is the symptoms of personnel. And I mean, just not being on that same level as some of these other teams. And here's the thing, Connor, this is not something that we've been used to saying for a long time. And I guess it was bound to happen at some point. But when you've been used to for so long, a group of men finding ways to win, and certainly finding ways to take advantage of 17-0 leads in games that you have to have, I think there was an element of, holy smokes, okay. There is a little bit of shell shock, I think, with this team that they managed to lost that game. And then there's no obvious, easy answers. I mean, it wasn't just one or two bad plays that were made that's why they lost the game. I mean, they were there. It was a slow drip is basically what it was since the 17-0 lead.
Yeah, and I like what Zach said there. I mean, he was very candid about the fact that he was just reflecting on it in the moment, and he needs to look at the film, but too many second and longs in the second half. I mean, Brady Oliveira kept the Bombers ahead of the chains in the first half with these 5-6 yard runs, sometimes even getting 8 or 9. And then you'd see Strevler come in. And then even on second and short, they were throwing short to Brady Oliveira. That's why you seemingly saw him get the ball every single snap in the first half. And then the second half, it seemed they went to more play action on first down, more straight dropbacks on first down, went away from Brady Oliveira. If Brady got the ball on first down, it was a 1 or 2 yard run instead of a 5 or 6 yard run. And the Bombers in second and long without Dalton Schoen, I mean, it's just tough with the personnel that they have at wide receiver right now to convert these second and longs. And Zach, we talked about the turnovers all throughout this season so far, whether it's Collaros or Strevler at quarterback, the turnovers have been an issue. And I think that's a product of not staying ahead of the chains, getting into second and longs, trying to force passes to a thin wide receiver room. I mean, Dylan Mitchell stepped in and had 2-3 catches. They're clearly missing another guy, and that guy is Dalton Schoen. And the Bombers have to hope that he can get healthy soon, and then that'll maybe help their second and long conversion rate going forward a little bit more. But I agree with Zach's initial thoughts there that way too many second and longs in the second half.
The receiving core was not really impactful at all. I mean, Brady Oliveira had 9 catches for 100 yards. Clarcius, Dembski, Stearns, Mitchell all had 3 catches. 32 yards was the longest total of those 3 catches. So not a lot of deep threats in the passing game outside of the big plays from Brady Oliveira. See what Rewucki has to say about this and more. Josh Frey-Sam coming up in a little bit. Connor and I will be back together a little later on, get into a little bit more of the Blue Jays and moving on. Listen, I do want to thank Rollies for their great support of WST, gang. If you've got a move coming up this spring, this fall, this winter, holler at Rollies, the family-owned and operated experts in the moving game, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. If you go to rollies.com, click on that request an estimate tab in the top right corner and put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. You'll be able to let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with the great quote to make sure you and all of your family's possessions get the white glove treatment that Rollies is famous for. For all your moving needs, lean on Rollies, the most trusted name in Manitoba. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollies.com. Well, it wasn't all smiles for Bomber fans after the game on Saturday. However, it's always all smiles at St. Vital Dental Center. Our pal Dr. Terry and his wonderful staff have been a very popular addition to the WST team. Many Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners have popped by. If you're lucky, you get that Friday afternoon appointment. You can get your grill worked on while you watch the marble race. Of course, St. Vital Dental Center has been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans for years. They've now got a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's, state-of-the-art equipment, and convenient free parking right in the back of the building. So for customers from 6 months to 99 plus, They've got you covered with everything from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. Find out more today on everything St. Vital Dental Center has waiting for you, and make an appointment online at stvitaldental.ca. It was a fun weekend. The weather was so-so. I mean, some nice, some not so nice. And I'm sure many people were having a good time in various locales. And listen, if you did pop by your Manitoba Liquor Marts, I hope you took a look at the Canadian Club Pack. The new CC and Ginger is now joined by the Half and Half and the Citrus Smash. You can pick those up in 12 packs. And don't forget, Canadian Club is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and the limited edition Bomber label Canadian Club is also now available at your local Manitoba Liquor Marts. Big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club. And hey, just before we bring in Brandon Rewucki, our friends at Manitoba Battery continue to be the leaders in batteries and service here in Manitoba. The lowest prices in town, period, guaranteed, beating the pants off the big box stores. You can save up to $60 a battery right now with Manitoba Battery to cover everything you need for the summer, including boating, camping, ATVing, you name it. The best price and the battery you need is at Manitoba Battery. Pop by and see them, Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive, or they'll be more than happy to deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. Order online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's get Brandon Rewucki in here. We're going to hit a number of topics with Rue, but Brandon, a lot of shock and awe in the chat today over what the heck happened to the Bombers on Saturday after a 17-0 lead. And then it just seemed like the offense was in quicksand and the defense was decimated, and Vernon Adams had his way. And despite the heroics of Sergio Castillo, it still wasn't enough to get the victory.
Yeah, and I think for me, just the fact that he nails the 63-yarder, it was, I mean, there's the celebration of, holy bleep, our kicker just nailed a 63-yarder, but then it's like, it's too much time. Like I'm assuming you had the same feeling as me and most other Bomber fans out there. It's just like, we're not getting
needed that first down.
Like, that was it, right? Like that was the game more so than just the field goal attempt. It kind of reminded me of that long 60+ yarder they tried against BC in the playoffs a few years ago. But you just had no hope or legitimate faith that they were going to slow down Calgary and prevent them from a field goal attempt. It was really just, how long is their field goal attempt going to be? So that was the most frustrating part. And I guess just the fact that the Bombers right now, they have a good coaching staff. They're not playing like a well-coached team. And we're just seeing the same errors kind of continue to pop up over and over again. The fact that Brady Oliveira just doesn't really get a whole lot of work in the second half compared to him running catching roughshod all over Calgary in the first half. It's just disappointing. But, they were in a worse spot last year. They found a way to get to the big game. So this team does have that in their back pocket, but there's no doubt right now two things are for certain. One is that they have a lot of issues to figure out, but two, they might have to avoid Calgary come playoff time and hope somebody else beats the Stamps, because this is like the 2000s all over again, where you don't want to see the red and white, whether it's in Calgary or in Winnipeg, facing up against the Bombers this year, because give them credit too in this.
Yeah, well, listen, their defense is legit. I mean, there's a lot of things that can change in the next few months. And I would suggest that if Calgary was, for instance, say Calgary finishes second and the Bombers finish third, and the Bombers are going into Calgary to play them, a team that, hasn't been in the playoffs the last couple of years. And, there'll be something about the Bombers come playoff time, assuming that they're there, that will still scare the bejesus out of a lot of teams. But it's getting there right now that's an issue. I mean, like I brought this up to Connor. That was such a high leverage game, and that they were ahead of Calgary if they won. Well, now they're 4-4. Calgary's 6-3. There's a significant gap between those top two teams and the next two. And I got to tell you, I don't know about you, but I'm not expecting the BC Lions to be a 4-5 team in the second half of the season like they were in the first half. I think they've got some momentum. I think Nathan Rourke is playing as well as anybody right now in the league. And that is going to mean that they win some games. Like this game against Ottawa Thursday could actually have massive crossover implications for the Bombers potentially crossing over to the East.
Yeah, and I don't know which. I mean, yeah, the East is a bit of a different animal, but even Ottawa's playing better now, right? Like they've had a couple of wild ones, but the fact is that they're much. I would say it's a better team than their record necessarily suggests. So,
dude, they came back from a 22-1 loss, a 22-1 deficit on Saturday. Drew Brown put up, I think, like 377 yards. I'll check that. But like, what's that offense going to do to what's left of the Bombers secondary if it's the same group that we saw in the second half against Calgary?
That's the problem right now. Is there's major foundational issues on offense and defense, right? Like it's not a couple window dressing things we need to fix up. It's the fact they can't get a stop in obvious passing situations, and the Bombers can't find a way to connect on obvious passing situations. So again, at least on offense, you have a little bit of historic precedence to build off of, that this team figured it out last year when it was arguably in a more dire situation. So we'll see what happens there. The defense, I think, though, you have every right to be a little bit more concerned about. And even the one victory they had over the last little bit, like there was that game in Winnipeg where they had open guys down the field, and I'm kind of blanking on who they faced, but there was a few big shots that were just missed passes, not well covered routes. So there's a few massive things that need to get corrected and need to be done immediately. The problem, though, again, Huss, is like some of it's talent in terms of what the players are executing out there. Some of it's coaching. Like the coaching's got to be better too. So yeah, it's pretty bad right now. But you find again in football, and this is true north south of the border. Like you get a win, and it kind of just completely 180s the script from week to week here. And so they win against Ottawa. They're above 500 and probably feeling not too bad about themselves heading into the second half, the unofficial second half of the year.
Well, it's going to be a hell of a challenge. I mean, I know Ottawa's record is what it is, but I mean, Drew Brown is back after spotting the Argos, the 22-1 lead. Drew Brown was on fire. His game line was 26 of 31 for 373 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, I'm here to tell you right now that if he plays at that level, this Bomber offense is going to need to put up 35 or 40 in the game on Thursday. And it does concern me, even though that's a game that everyone will expect the Bombers to win and they'll be a 6-point favorite or whatever when the lines come out, that this is going to be a big challenge. And we're going to find a lot about what the guys that are left and able to play, or whether they're going to be able to raise their level to find a way to win. We're going to talk more about the Bombers coming up with Josh Frey-Sam coming up in a minute. Brandon, getting over to the Jets for a bit. We were hitting this at the end of last week. We were talking a little bit about Gustav Nyquist, but I'm talking a lot more this last little bit about Jonathan Toews. I don't know if you saw those clips last week online. He was out working out with, I guess he's been in the lab all summer with the Adam Oates team. It is cool to see just how serious and how focused he is on this comeback. And I can tell you, knowing from some people that have worked with Jonathan last year, this really dates back to last season. I mean, we're talking about a full 9-month ramp up pretty much to what's going to be happening. What, in your mind, what are realistic expectations for Toews this year? And what's the best case scenario for Jonathan Toews as a Winnipeg Jet?
Yeah. So realistic best case scenario, I would say, I think realistically, if you can get anywhere from 60 to 70 regular season games out of him, that would be very, very successful for the team. It's pretty difficult though. Like you look at what he's going to have to work with on the second line right now, assuming that it's Scheifele, Connor, and Velarde here. It's not like the Jets have the luxury of, hey, Nikolai Ehlers can carry this line and keep Toews up to speed until he gets 10 or so games under his belt. He's going to have to, in a way, drive that line alongside Cole Perfetti. But I think, as far as reasonable expectations, if you get 60 to 70 games in the regular season and in and around 40 to 50 points, that would be, I think, about as realistically excellent as you could hope for out of him. But it really comes down to what he's going to do come playoff time. That's why this team brought him in, right? It's not to find, some level of 2C play during the regular season to potentially win the division again. I mean, this team has won the division and cracked 100 points with Vlad Nemesnikov as their second line center for the past couple of seasons. They don't need high level second line centerman play to get the job done in the regular season. They do need that come playoff time. So it's going to be an interesting balancing act, because I do truly believe that by the preseason, we're going to know if Jonathan Toews is ready to go or not. I don't think we're going to need, 20 games or so to think, oh, does he still have it? Can he keep up? I think we'll find that out really, really quickly. But it's going to be, how do we keep him fresh come April, come May, come June, right? And you're going to have to, the Jets are really, I believe, going to have to alter his schedule much more differently than any other skater probably in the NHL, because there's going to have to be pick your spots here and there where, and I know hockey fans hate this, but you're going to have to play the load management game a little bit, right? Because it's a long ass season. It's a lot of time, and you could be in the best shape you've been in 5 years, but by the time January, February rolls around, it's tough to maintain that level of play consistently here. So I think reasonable expectations would be, as far as the regular season goes, maybe you could call it average second line center play and performance, but that come playoff time, he's able to elevate his game to another level. And I think if he's giving you 40-ish points, Huss, during the regular season, that we're going to see a much more dynamic, improved version come playoff time. But it's a fascinating subplot, is just going to be almost like, almost the same way you would a starting goalie. Like, we'd love to play him 80 games. That's not best for the team to try to get through 4 rounds in April, May, and June.
The irony is that they'll have the ability to maybe sit him down a lot more later on in the season, not right out of the gate, because of course Adam Lowry's not going to be there. But I guess we'll see how that goes, and hopefully the newly engaged captain will be back sooner as opposed to later. But they'll certainly be starting without Adam Lowry, and that is significant right off the bat. When we talk about that second line of Toews and obviously the loss of Ehlers, to me, maybe the player that will impact the Jets the most, Toews and his ability is going to be a huge thing if he's on that line. But I would suggest, Brandon, that the continued development of Cole Perfetti might be maybe the factor in how well this team does and how well that top 6 and particularly that line number 2, does against the rest of the league, and how they compete. Because I think we're going to see Toews add some things that helps them in their own end. I think they'll probably have the puck a little bit more, certainly coming off with his expertise in the face-off circle and all of that. But when it comes to generating offense, if it is Nyquist and Toews, there is going to be a far bigger percentage of the load on Cole Perfetti to be a guy that is generating offense for himself and for his teammates. And to be honest, I'm kind of excited to see what the next step for Perfetti is. It's a huge year for him. Let's not forget that he's an RFA at the end of this year, and there's nothing that he and his agent would like more than a very productive season showing that he can do it, being a driver and a real key generator on that line. And if that happens, that'll be very good for his negotiating position at the end of the year. But how important to you is Perfetti to the Jets' hopes when it comes to that second line and offense overall?
I mean, pretty mandatory. Is that important? Because they have no fallback right now, Huss. Again, you could kind of lean on the fact that, and almost like the comfortable certainty that Ehlers is going to carry his own line as a winger. That safety net is no longer here now. And so you can even make the argument that the 50-point season he had last year isn't enough for this team to kind of take another step. They're going to need, I think, Cole, to play close to 82 games, to crack 60 points for the first time, and really, I think, carry over the positive momentum that he showed having his first truly successful playoff action. And it's kind of funny because, he only put up, I think, 6 points in 14 games for the Jets in the playoffs. But he's just night and day, totally different player, right? And I think he did gain a lot of confidence. Obviously scoring that legendary Game 7 goal is going to play a big part in that. But I think he maybe for the first time kind of understood, like, I know what it takes and I can do it. He was pretty snake bitten too for the first handful of games. Like, he could have ended up being closer to a point a game guy in the playoffs if he might have just had a little more puck luck. But it's a pretty big season just in the overall, I guess, like, career of Cole Perfetti too, because like he's 23 now, so 23, 24. This is kind of the peak of NHLers these days in age. And so we're going to find out truly what kind of a guy he is. Is he going to be like maybe a potential top line winger for you? Is he going to settle into just a solid guy that you could put on the wing in your middle six somewhere and maybe run the second power play unit? And to your point, it's a pretty big gap in terms of payday between those two types of players. So, look, he's another one of 8-9 young guys on this team that they're just going to have elevated responsibility thrown onto their shoulders this year. And if they don't deliver, this team's probably battling for a wild card spot as opposed to battling for home ice advantage in the first round of the postseason. So I think you're bang on there. And it would make Jonathan Toews' life a whole lot easier if he had a 65-point guy on his wing as opposed to just the solid point production that we saw last year.
One other thing that we, while we're talking about Toews and Perfetti, that we haven't really touched on the show is how the power play is going to look this year. And we all remember the boost that Nikolai Ehlers gave the power play when he finally was moved to the number one unit, and they were the number one unit in the year in the league last year. You would have to assume that Velarde, Scheifele, Connor, Morrissey will all be returnees to the number one power play unit, which leaves one more spot. Who do you think is more likely to start the season there? Is it Jonathan Toews or is it Cole Perfetti? And obviously with one of those guys being there, the other one will be on that second unit. Just thoughts on the pros and cons to having either guy in that power play spot outside of obviously who can produce the most with the big guys up front.
Yeah, I think Perfetti's got the inside track, and I'd be pretty surprised not to see him get that spot. He looked good on the power play too when Ehlers missed some time. So I really don't see the Jets needing to change a whole lot in terms of their the first 5-on-4 unit. And I think, you saw it in the games that he played. I don't think the percentages dipped all that much with Perfetti in over Ehlers. But there's like just a tiny bit more of a pass, like a playmaker element added to the power play with Cole in there as opposed to Nicky. And I think he had a pretty good connection with Gabe Velarde, actually. So maybe in a sense, like if Perfetti's on the 5-on-4 unit, maybe that gets Velarde involved a little bit more, which I always like with that power play group because I mean, we all see it. I think he's a top 3 net front forward in the entire NHL. And so getting the big man the puck down low is going to help the rest of the unit out there. The interesting part with Toews too, though, Huss, is, not that they're, super taxing minutes, but like you do need to almost put a bit of a pitch count on Jonathan Toews. So I think having him on the second power play unit helps you do that a little bit better. Then maybe he's the guy that can just straight up run it. And obviously he's had a decent amount of experience doing that. The intriguing thing is, how many shorthanded minutes do you give Jonathan Toews in the regular season? Because he knows how to do it. Come playoff time, he's probably going to be their number one penalty killing forward. But again, how much do you want to thrust onto his plate earlier on in the season? How much do you want to? Then how much do you need to with Adam Lowry being out for X amount of time too? So there's a lot of fascinating layers with the Toews situation in general, but I kind of wonder a little bit if he, even though he might quote unquote be the team's best penalty killing forward, if maybe you just hold that one in your back pocket until, there's a game you need to win or a third period kill you need to have, or this is our ace of the hole come playoff time. That part is really, really interesting to me. I'm not sure how the coaching staff is going to try to tackle that early in the season.
Well, and it's one of those things where you have a guy in your locker room that has, elite penalty killing ability, but there is a limited number of minutes. He's going to be playing significant minutes centering that second line out of the gate, presumably. And, okay, you're going to throw him out there. How often do you want it? Or do you start off the season looking to see if, and again, it's complicated further with Adam Lowry being out, right?
Yeah.
But if the Morgan Barons, of the team can sort of step up and take, just move up a shot. And I guess seeing who is in the bottom six. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I knew much about Cole Koepke. I mean, maybe he's a player that has a good penalty killing part to the resume. I mean, if you can get significant minutes from fourth and third liners in those situations, that would be huge for Jonathan Toews, because I am with you. I mean, I think you realize that there is a realistic limit at the start of how much you can lean on this guy after being away from the National Hockey League for so long. And much like with the loss of Lowry at the start of the season, Ehlers being gone, that is another part of the opportunity lying in the lineup for guys that are there right now to maybe step up and be able to do a little bit more to help teams on a day-to-day basis that can set Toews up for success and be the best that he can be in the minutes that he gets.
Yeah, I really think you're going to almost have to look at him as like a starting pitcher coming off an arm injury, right? Where it's like, okay, we can maybe
he's our Max Scherzer.
He's our Scherzer. He's our Bieber, right? Like maybe it's not a regular penalty kill shift, but a high leverage one that we need. He starts that one off for us, right? Like, or you need a face-off win. We'll put Jonathan Toews in that scenario. We can just kind of pick and choose when he comes at it here, but there's kind of an overarching theme about all of this, and that's just that elevated responsibility is thrown all over the roster. I mean, we don't know the lines, but my guess is I think we see Morgan Barron start the year as third line center, and there's probably going to be a decent amount of shorthanded time thrown into his mix too. Then you talk about the new guys that come in, like what are they going to be able to contribute 5-on-5 and the special teams, and that doesn't even take into equation if Brad Lambert, if Braden Yeager, if Colby Barlow, or any of these youngsters can come in and have a camp for the ages. So it's a very unique situation. It's not one we see a whole lot in the NHL either, especially for teams of Winnipeg's caliber who have cup aspirations in their sights. But that's just kind of the reality of the situation that they've put themselves in, is that they're going to have to be creative with this. Because again, yes, wins and points all count the same at the end of the year, but the main goal is you want Toews, you want Hellebuck, you want all your top guys ready to go and at the best possible stage of preparedness come April, whatever date it is that game one of the playoffs start. And I think we can all agree, having Toews lead the team in shorthanded time on ice in October is not the optimal situation come the end of the year. So I think, pitch count, like you said, there, Scherzer, Bieber, and Winnipeg, and then Toews should hopefully be just fine.
Well, listen, there'll be no such pitch count on Perfetti. And if he can put himself in a position to show that he has that other level, can, be productive on that second line. Back to our power play conversation, I think it is likely that he starts there. Like, to your point, I mean, Toews has done it on a power play for a long time. I mean, he's a great option to have if somebody gets hurt. I think being a more impactful, having a bigger role maybe on the PP2 that'll come in for 30 seconds of power plays as opposed to a minute and maybe more is probably where they start. And I do think that sets them up best for success. If the power play goes ice cold and they have to change it, they've got that option. If somebody gets hurt, they can go and do that, But other than that, I mean, I think we're looking at right out of the gate, Cole Perfetti having the opportunity for a much bigger role. And if he can make it happen, we will be good. Brandon, great stuff as always, pal. Thanks for doing this. Enjoy the rest of the week. And we'll look forward to catching up with you next week, hopefully with panic mode lessened around Bomberville.
Well, I wish I could give a guarantee it won't be as bad, but I agree. Let's have a much better vibe when we get back at it next week.
Find a way to win. Thanks for doing this, pal.
Sounds good. Have a good one, guys.
You got it. Speaking of that next game, you know where that is? Princess Auto Stadium, folks, Thursday night. Now, this, I believe, is going to be the 10th straight sellout. I was looking at tickets earlier, and I think there was just some singles available, so not entirely sure. We'll have an update for you in the next couple of days on that. But I would suggest you try and get your hands on tickets ASAP if you haven't already. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon as well. You can always shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Hey, I've got some great news. Great news. Huge, huge congratulations to Pitt and the team at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, who today, for the first time since I left on that plane a month ago, are able to welcome guests back to Aikens Lake. There's a lot of heroes there that battled those blazes. I'll never forget that day that we left and what they were dealing with that night. And to hear the stories of saving the lodge and saving the 2 outposts on the other side of the lake was just, terrible that they lost a month of business. But it would have been way worse if they had lost the lodge. So business is back on at Aikens Lake. Obviously, this has really hit their business this year. If you are thinking about, maybe making the most of a fishing trip at the end of summer or into September, aikenslake.com for more information. Tell them WST sent you. We'll hook you up for a 10% discount. They'd love to get a few more groups in, I think, by the end of the season and try and minimize the damage that the wildfires did to Aikens Lake. I can tell you it is world-class in every which way, from both the fishing to the hospitality of the Aikens team and the Pitt and the Turenne family. So find out more, aikenslake.com. And if you go to Aikens Lake on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you can get these latest updates of smiles all around that business is back and the fish is on back at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. And hey, got to shout out our pals over at F Apparel. Folks, fall just around the corner. Guys, if you need to up your menswear game heading into the new season, get on down now to F Apparel. Custom suits starting at $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, incredible selection of menswear accessories. And if you are getting married or in a wedding party, make sure you talk to the guys at F about a special discount when you get your suits for the big day at F Apparel for the wedding party. They're at 190 Smith Street downtown. Find out more, make an appointment to get in for a fitting online at F. That's EPH apparel.com. All right. Let's get back to picking apart this game on Saturday and a crazy weekend in the Canadian Football League. Josh Frey-Sam from the Winnipeg Free Press joins us now. Josh, what's good, buddy? How's the weekend?
What's going on, Huss, man? I'm doing well, man. I hope you're doing well as well. I just that was actually my first overnight stay in Calgary, believe it or not. I've driven through Calgary a few times, but to get to where I'm going. But this was my first time staying overnight. Love the city, actually. Really nice city there.
Yeah, listen, Calgary's nice. No one ever is actually seemingly from Calgary that lives in Calgary, but it is listen, it's beautiful. There's a lot of fun things to do. And listen, anyone that was there at McMahon saw a hell of a football game. Just before we dive into this, can you believe that weekend in the Canadian Football League? Every single game was, a thriller one way or the other. There was a couple complete but heavyweight title fights of just offense going back and forth, like the Toronto game and, of course, the BC Hamilton game. And then you had some games that had some more defense. The games on Saturday were crazy, though. Ottawa comes back from a 21-point deficit, and Calgary spots Winnipeg 17-0 and is still able to come back. There's a lot of areas to look at. Let me just throw out this why not question today to the chat, because I put this up in the chat a minute ago. And listen, I think there's a lot of areas to be concerned about the Bombers right now. But the why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray: what are you most concerned about right now regarding the Bombers? Is it the secondary? Is it the offensive line? Is it the quarterback play? is it the receiving core? Unfortunately, Josh, there's plenty of options to put up on that poll right now because there's a lot to be concerned about coming out of that game.
Yeah, I would say, man, if I had to point to one, I think it's the secondary personally. I mean, we just saw Terrell Bonds get hurt on what was just a disgusting route by Tevin Jones. Oh my goodness. It's unfortunate he got hurt on that play, but that was a disgusting route by Tevin. I was kind of sitting in the press box. I'm sitting by Ed Tate. I'm like grabbing Ed Tate, just going nuts in the press box. Like, oh my goodness, just as a football fan, had to appreciate that route. But Terrell Bonds goes down. You obviously have what has been a revolving door over there at field corner with Marquise Bridges now being cut, and Dexter Lawson gets his first start. He lets up a long bomb to Tevin Jones there. Jake Kelly got absolutely roasted on the weekend. I thought there was like 3 different plays where he was on the field where they hit long balls over him or on the back end with him at safety and not Retta Cramdy back there. Retta was playing more in the box, of course. So yeah, the defensive secondary has to be the place for me because you see the pass rush has been coming on. James Vaughters now has a sack, I think, in 3 straight games. Willie Jefferson's doing his thing at the line of scrimmage, knocking passes down. The secondary is easily the place for me. I think that the receiving core, although there is obvious reason for concern, the receiving core still has I think there's room for optimism there still. I think that Dylan Mitchell, obviously, hopefully he can, maybe get into better game shape and he can, get acclimated to this offense and stuff like that. Nick Dembski's always there. Carrick Wheatfall, we've seen him have flashes. Kevin Sklercius hopefully can come on. Jared Stearns has really come on in the last few weeks as far as like when he gets his opportunities anyways. I think he's been catching the ball quite a bit, but it's got to be the secondary, man. The explosive plays, it wasn't even the amount of explosive plays this week. It was just kind of they seemed really timely, really key, right? The Stampeders come out of the first quarter. They didn't even get a first down in the first quarter. And then and it's like 2 plays into the second quarter. It's just a deep ball to Tevin. They needed that desperately. And they got it in the best way there. So it's the secondary, and I don't know how much better it's going to get. Like that's kind of at least with some of those other areas, I would think that, Zach probably played arguably his best game of the season. And I'm including that game against the Elks as well. I think the argument could be made that he played one of his best games of the season there. And then the receiving core and the offensive line, I still think that there's definitely room for improvement, but I'm not really as concerned there. It's just the secondary has been a constant issue. And with the injuries and the revolving door, different positions, there's just not really a sign that it's necessarily going to get better anytime soon.
Well, speaking of the secondary, we mentioned, they're going to next man up right now. And I'll say this, that was a tough day at the office and a welcome to the CFL moment for Jake Kelly. Yeah. It was
terrible because he was like, he hit that, there was the long ball to Tevin Jones, and then it was, and then I forget who the next long ball. Maybe it was Jalen Philpott. I can't remember who it was. But anyways, it was 3 separate occasions where it was just they were clearly
and a long PI too.
And the long PI, yes, to Dominique Grimes. That's the one that I forgot about as well. You're absolutely right. There's a potential 4th right there. So yeah, where he panicked and stuff like that. It was just it was clearly a matter of, for me, it was like, well, I mean, Jake's a nice guy, man. He's a nice kid, but it's like they were clearly not afraid to go and target him when he was on the back end, and they made him pay, and there was clear reason for that.
Now, it seems like most of the chat is agreeing with you right now. Secondary's at 49%. But as far as the offense goes, because the offense basically was in quicksand from about 20 minutes into the game beyond, was not able to move the football and move the chains, especially when they needed it the most. Mm-hmm. I thought the offensive line was roughed up at times. Now, listen, all of this is knowing that they're playing a really good defense in the Calgary Stampeders, who have established themselves as one of the best units in the league all year long. But, I mean, dude, I'm looking at the stats from the game, and let me just pull up this box score again. Bomber receivers combined for 13 catches. Brady Oliveira was targeted 9 times, caught them all for 100 yards. You got Claricius, who led the receivers in receiving, 3 catches, 32 yards. Dembski 3 for 28, Stearns 3 for 27, did get the lone touchdown, and Dylan Mitchell was 3 for 22. Carrick Wheatfall 1 catch for 4 yards. How much of that is on the receivers? How much is that is on the quarterback? The offensive line certainly has a big role in all of that, and of course the Calgary defense. I mean, what do we make of the offensive performance that obviously wasn't up to the standard that they needed it to be to win, even after getting spotted 17 points?
Yeah, so I'm actually glad you brought this up. So there was actually a point in time, I know that when everybody was before Dylan Mitchell actually got onto the field, I was actually in probably what was a camp that that probably wasn't a popular opinion. So I know that everybody was confused about why Dylan Mitchell wasn't getting on the field. I was absolutely confused about why he wasn't getting on the field as well. However, while everybody was banging the table, Dylan Mitchell needs to be on the field, Dylan Mitchell needs to be on the field, why isn't he on the field? I'm kind of sitting here going, what's Dylan Mitchell going to do in this offense right now? What is he going to provide in this offense when the offense had turned the ball over 20 times in 4 games? What Dylan Mitchell being on the field doesn't change the amount of turnovers that this offense is having. And so that's why I was kind of, when Dylan Mitchell came in, it was obviously it's newsy, but I wasn't necessarily expecting him to make this massive impact on the game per se. Now, having said that, I thought that Zach Collaros played one of his best games of the season in this game. Actually, Huss, maybe this is an unpopular opinion as well. I would go so far as to say this was probably one of the most encouraging performances of this Bombers team that we have seen in at least 5 weeks. I'm leaving this game, although it's a loss, although it's a missed opportunity for this team in so many different ways, and maybe I can get into that a little bit later. I still leave this game probably, if I'm a Bomber fan, feeling about as good about this team as I have in 6 weeks, if I'm being honest, because the unconvincing win against the Argos, and then obviously getting shellacked however many weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row before that. With all that being said, going back to your original question about the receivers, I think that in this game, although in previous weeks I would not put it on the receivers necessarily because of the pure amount of turnovers that were happening from the quarterbacks alone, this week it definitely felt like it was on the receivers because the amount of times that I saw Zach Collaros drop back, pat the ball, hit the top of his drop, and where he should be hitting the top of his drop, one hitching and letting the ball go in rhythm on time, he was not doing that. Instead, he had to sit there, pat the ball again, get to his second progression, his second read, third read, fourth read, and then next thing you know, it's Brady Oliveira catching the ball for the 9th time for 100 yards, right? That Brady Oliveira catching the ball wasn't by design, except for the one screen pass that he caught. Brady Oliveira is the last read in the progression. He should not be catching the ball unless that's why he is a outlet. He is a last resort. He's a check down. So that tells me that the receivers are not getting open. They're not uncovering themselves. They're not separating from the defensive backs. And when you have Jalen Hutchins in the middle of the Calgary Stampeders defensive line, who was an absolute one-man wrecking crew and gave this defense, this interior of the offensive line problems, Calgary was literally able to rush 3 in this game and get home and force and pressure Zach. So that to me is an indictment on the receivers and their ability to get open. Now, one thing that I did like from Jason Hogan, it was in the first half. It seemed like there was a concerted effort to find the way to get the ball out of Zach's hands very quickly and find a way to stretch the defense laterally, if you would. There we saw, whether it was Jarrett Stearns getting thrown out on a quick screen, or Nick Dembski we saw do one of those sweeps and get the ball handed off to him, things of that nature, finding the way just to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. I think that was what Jason Hogan did really well in the first half. We saw him get away from that in the second half, and the receivers and him try to maybe push the ball down the field a little bit more, what have you, whatever the game plan was, but it wasn't the same as it was in the first half, or Calgary adjusted, and as a result, the receivers definitely weren't uncovering themselves. And so I would say that the offense and the passing game in particular, and the reason why you saw Brady get so many catches in this game was definitely because the receivers just weren't doing their job at a high enough of a level, and they were getting obviously plastered by the Calgary defense.
It's a great point, Josh. And on that note, I mean, where is that Carrick Wheatfall that we saw at the beginning of the season?
Yeah.
I mean, one catch for 4 yards?
Yeah, he's quiet. Like I don't know, because Carrick, Here's the thing. Carrick might have a pretty, I would argue, a limited skill set in the sense that he's he's longer, but he's an extremely fast receiver. He's a guy, we saw him, Zach and Chris both hit him on deep shots in the first few weeks of the season, right? We got off to that really hot start, as you mentioned. If they were on deep shots, it was him stretching the field. He is the kind of guy for me that you just need to utilize his speed. I'm not sure if they're not utilizing his speed properly, or it's just a guy that you need to find a way to, again, get the ball in his hands so that he can make hopefully one guy miss and then get off to the races, because that's a skill set. To me, he's not a crisp route runner over the middle of the field. There needs to be, whether it's getting him on a deep over route, for example, finding a way to uncover him so that he can run away from receivers, whether it's in man coverage or run away from defensive backs, right? Find it, whether it's a drag route, right? Find these crossing patterns, a slant even, right? Find something where he can get in, hit his foot in the ground, cut off of that and run away from somebody, and catch the ball in momentum and get off to the races, because he has such exceptional speed, probably has the best speed of anybody in this receiving core. I just don't know if it's being utilized the same way that we saw before. Maybe that going back to your original point about the offensive line potentially as well, maybe that's Jason Hogan. I'm not sure. Maybe that's an indictment on the offensive line and Zach not having enough time to get the ball. I'm not sure, but whatever the reason is, like Carrick Weefall he's not produced at the same level. That's one where most of these questions you ask us, I feel like I have the answer to, but I just, with Carrick, I have no idea. I just can't imagine that they're using him probably in the same way that they were early on in the season.
Well, and I'll say this, Josh, I mean, and we sort of get into coaching right now. And listen, I know Jason Hogan's probably learning a lot on the fly, in his first year as OC.
Yeah.
But at this point, and I was sort of expecting this to happen with Zach returning, finding plays early on in the game to get guys like Wheatfall involved. I mean, maybe quick slants, getting the football in their hands, allowing them to maybe make a play, get a few extra yards, and be into the game. Because I can imagine for a big play wide receiver, especially in the Canadian Football League, with the amount of plays that are happening, if it's just not coming to you, it's just not happening, it can get to be sort of demoralizing. And that was a big part. Like, there was seemingly, outside of Brady, there was nobody that was really going. There was nobody that was consistently open. And that compounded. And listen, credit to Zach for not making irresponsible throws or trying to play hero ball and doing things that he had to do. And unfortunately, he had to eat it. But eating it as much as they did and not getting those first downs, that was like, as I said to Connor at the start of the show, it was a slow drip. All of that, in addition to the Bombers offense not being able to move the football, in addition to Vernon Adams heating up, it just continued to progressively move the football into the zone. Even if the defense, which they did at times, able to kind of hold in the red zone, you're kicking field goals, and there was plenty of time for Calgary to get back in after, of course, they started it all with that bomb after they didn't even have a first down. That's kind of the one thing that's so frustrating from a Bomber fan perspective. That game in the first quarter could not have started any better. The defense came out. They weren't giving up first downs. They made some big plays. Special teams was good. They took advantage of it. And then it was a complete 180, basically, after they hit that one big ball.
Yeah, and I actually look at one of the big plays in the game that maybe went a little bit, I don't know if I want to so far say overlooked, but we're not talking about it too much, is that when Calgary stuffed Winnipeg in the red zone on that Chris Strevler, right? That short 3rd and 1. That to me, Winnipeg has an opportunity in that sense to either really reclaim whether it's a stranglehold on this, whether it's, you talked about this slow drip, Huss, whether it's to stop the drip, whatever you want to call it. That was an opportunity. If Winnipeg puts 6 points on the board there, this game could take a completely different shape. I think that was a huge, I don't even know if I want to say the TSN turning point, but that was a huge play in this game for both sides as far as confidence goes, momentum, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think that for me, I was a little bit, There's a saying, and I wrote about this in my takeaways piece. Players over plays, and it's an old adage in football where they talk about, instead of trying to dial up the perfect play for the perfect situation, whatever situation you're in, you just find ways to get the ball in the hands of your best playmakers. And for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, it's obviously Brady Oliveira, which I think a lot of fans are banging the table for. More Brady. It's Nick Dembski, which he has proven over and over again this year that he's absolutely still that guy. And I would argue as well, it would be Carrick Wheatfall would be the third guy up, right? Especially with Dalton Schoen not in the lineup. Carrick Wheatfall showed he has the ability to make plays. So find a way to get the ball in Carrick's hands, whatever that looks like. And I don't know if that's Jason Hogan not maybe believing in Carrick as much, or maybe it's Carrick, maybe they're trying to find a way to get him the ball and Carrick's not uncovering. That goes back to my point about him not being necessarily the crispest route runner in the world to uncover, right? He's a guy who runs past people, doesn't, necessarily separate super well. So but I think that there is definitely a need to, especially with Dalton Schoen not in the lineup, you need to have a more reliable, whoever that second option is going to be. If it's Jarrett Stearns, make it Jarrett Stearns. If it's Carrick Wheatfall, make it Carrick Wheatfall, but it has to go beyond Brady and Nick. As much as you need to feature them, you need to feature them first, which is why Nick Dembski also would be equally as frustrating for me if I were a Bomber fan. That would be equally as frustrating that he only had 3 catches on the day. But it needs to be featured Nick Dembski, needs to feature Brady Oliveira, and it needs to be that secondary option, Carrick Wheatfall. Get them involved in the game early and often, because these receivers will all tell you, it's tough to go long stretches without catching the ball. You got to be in a rhythm early and often. And man, shoot, let them. I don't know if it's the way the defenses are playing them, whatever the deal is, but huck up a couple long balls to him. I don't know. We'll see if he can come down with it. But just need to find a way to get him involved.
Oh, listen, I mean, I know they don't want to have any frivolous turnovers, but at the same point, if you're lofting 165 yards up with the potential for a big play and it does get picked off, if you cover it properly, it just basically is a punt. And the Bombers did a lot of punting. So I echo you. The one guy we haven't talked through all of this, and we mentioned the coaches and all the players, is Kyle Walters. And I mean, I think that there is a question as to just simply, do the Bombers have the athletes right now in that locker room? Now that they're being depleted at certain positions, to be able to get the job done. And I guess we'll find out in the next few weeks. But in a month from now, when we get onto the other side of Labor Day or the Banjo Bowl, will the Bombers have some other players? Do you think that they will now, after what has happened over the course of this past month, be looking to immediately try and get guys from NFL cuts or some other guys that might have been out there waiting to come in? Listen, it's not something the Bombers have traditionally done. Yeah. But I think I would make the argument that, this season is still very much salvageable at 4-4. Oh. And it's not how you're playing right now. It's being in the dance and being ready to be your best come November, which I think the Bombers that's the one thing they have over just about everyone. They've done that over and over again. They've had it, but I'm not sure this can be fixed with the guys in the room right now. And I do wonder whether we might be seeing another signing or two, or, essentially a couple new bodies to come in that can hopefully help out on the defensive side.
Yeah, I would say for sure. I would say that conversation, my gut tells me if it's going to happen, that would probably come to the defensive secondary. I don't think it would be in the receiving core or anywhere else, really. I would think that it would have to be in the defensive, especially we'll see how long I think it actually hinges on Terrell Bonds as well and how long he's out. They also know that, I don't know if they're just completely done with Marquise Bridges at this point. I have no idea, but just him.
I would have loved to have seen him on. I mean, listen, as much as I kind of said this, I don't know how you go from a starter to a backup to the practice roster to being out the door in about 2 weeks, but he managed to do it. And I would speculate, no one said anything to me, but based on that trajectory, I would suggest that maybe he didn't handle it well and there was something more than just play on the field. Because holy smokes, I mean, when you're seeing guys struggle like that, I mean, did he have some tough games? For sure. I don't think it would have been worse than what we saw on Saturday. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And the Bombers have, they've shown too in the past that they're willing to kind of let it ride, right? Because Marquis getting cut like that or making even that change in season, that's something we've talked about. That's not, like the Bombers to necessarily do, especially what is that, like 6 weeks into the season or 7 weeks into the season, whatever it was, when he got cut. Like so that to me is kind of, I would agree with you. There was maybe a little bit more than goes a little bit deeper than the surface what was seen there for Keese, but maybe he hangs around. I mean, it was interesting. I don't know when the cuts kind of came down when they would have let him know, but it was interesting because the morning when he got cut, I actually saw him in the locker room like an hour before the announcement was made. So I don't know if they would have cut him like in that hour or if they told him and he's still hanging around. I have no idea. I guess we'll see if he's still in the locker room, because I know they've done that in the past where guys will just still hang around and they'll work out and they'll just kind of have him on tap just in case. But yeah, going back to your original question, I mean, I would definitely say that it's potential that we see, whether it's a cornerback, or the other thing is too, is that potentially it's Peyton Logan comes back and I know at the dismay of Bomber fans, maybe it's Trey Vaval goes to corner and maybe it's Peyton Logan comes in and handles the return duties now. You know what I mean? I think that's another option that's definitely on the table, because again, I just don't know, I'm trying to think of the precedent for the Bombers is that they wouldn't really do something like that as far as just like bringing a bunch of these new guys to try and overhaul it. But I would say if Terrell Bonds isn't season ending, I would say that's probably the more likely situation. But I guess we'll see when it comes. We'll see who gets cut when NFL camps are done.
Well, one thing I do know, Josh, is that this game on Thursday is a big one. We've got this gap now between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I think BC's trending up. Nathan Rourke is playing incredible football right now, and that's going to translate into wins. And you got the Ottawa Redblacks coming in here that are probably feeling pretty good about themselves after putting back-to-back wins, especially the way they won in Toronto on Saturday. And to be honest, I know the Bombers are going to get the reputation bump on the spread, and it's going to be 6 or 6.5 or something like that. Dude, I mean, I look at this Bomber secondary and look at Drew Brown that went for almost 400 yards and 5 touchdowns on Saturday.
Yep.
And the receivers that Ottawa is bringing to the table. This matchup scares the hell out of me right now in that perspective, unless somehow help is on the way, or the guys that are wearing those same jerseys coming out are at a whole other different level than they were on Saturday against Calgary. Because as much as there's a lot of things that Ottawa doesn't do well, Drew Brown will sling it. He'll sling it all day long, and he'll throw it deep and make you work for every single 2 and out. And this is a scary matchup. Write Ottawa off all you want, folks. This is not going to be easy, and this is a game the Bombers, I think, feel they have to have.
I couldn't agree more. And the other thing, you just mentioned it right there with the Bombers and maybe that slight sense of desperation potentially creeping in. I mean, Ottawa's been playing with that. I feel like they're going to have to continue playing with that if they want their season to go the way they want it to. But yeah, Drew and Ottawa, they'll sling it. So yeah, this kind of works out pretty well for them. Huss, I wanted to actually touch on one thing that kind of blends into this a little bit. That I thought, I wrote today in my 5 takeaways piece that I thought that this was a missed opportunity for Winnipeg against Calgary. And the big reason why for that was it kind of went beyond the standings for me. Like you mentioned, Winnipeg's still right in the thick of it, right? Of the West Division playoff race at 4-4. They're in the thick of it. The loss, obviously you want to win games, but it's not like they fell to the bottom of the West or something like that. It's not like they're out of the race or anything like that. This to me though was a bigger loss because of for what this win could have done for this team as we go towards the second half of the season. Winnipeg, I'd said it all week. I jumped into a Twitter space with a couple of fans and shared my thoughts. I went on Sportsnet Radio Saturday morning in Calgary to share these exact same thoughts. I thought Winnipeg, this game played out exactly the way Winnipeg needed it to. I said before the game, Winnipeg needed a boring football game. And a boring in the sense, not obviously this was an exciting game, but boring in the sense that we have seen so many explosives. We had seen so many turnovers. We had seen so much happening in the last month with these Bombers, right? These games of just, if you're an over better, you're laughing with these Bombers. They're just smashing the over because of how many points are getting put up on the board. The Bombers needed one of these, I think I had predicted 24-20, 24-21 kind of victories against Calgary. And for Serge to go and kick that field goal potentially walk it off if they had been able to handle business and stave off Calgary's last-minute attempt there. I just can't help but wonder what that win would have done for this team, not from a confidence perspective. I don't suspect any belief has necessarily left the building at 4-4, but from a confidence perspective, and even from the fan base's perspective and their confidence, I just can't help but wonder what that would have done. And now you're talking about going into a game against Ottawa where you know that you're going to get Ottawa's best shot. You've got the Drew Brown storyline, right? That whole thing, maybe that's passed by now, but you still got the Drew Brown returning to Winnipeg storyline. You got a desperate team there. And then let's not forget, Winnipeg's literally about to go into the toughest stretch of their schedule of the season right away. This is it. They're in it. Calgary on the road, Ottawa at home. Maybe people are going to call this maybe a slight, this is the break, the slight reprieve in this part of the schedule, if you would. And then it's Montreal. It's a couple of games against the West Division leading Saskatchewan Roughriders. And then it's against Hamilton Tiger Cats. This is you're playing the top dogs now. Going forward, this is what it is. And so going into Calgary and blundering what was potentially in my opinion, what could have been a season-changing kind of win from a pure narrative or confidence perspective for this Bombers team, to go in there and blunder it, to me, was way bigger than the consequences that it had in the standings for me at this point in the season. And so now you're going against Ottawa, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But it's just I think that this could have been done wonders for this team over the next month.
We talked about it beforehand going in. I mean, listen, the Bombers were 4 or 5 point dogs in this one. And I thought they had they could have won the football game. I thought it was going to be close. If you told me it was going to be a 1 point game and they lost beforehand, to be like, okay, well, they obviously competed. That's good. Yeah. It just feels a little different when you get that 17-0 lead and then you see what happened in the second half. Hey, just on the way out, what was it like in the press box when Sergio went out and bashed that 63-yarder? I mean, unfortunately, that legendary play is kind of going to be lost in the 26-25 final score.
Yeah, lots of oohs and ahs in the box, and I immediately reach over to my book and say, what is the CFL record? And we're all flipping through our pages and people are typing and looking and whatever, but lots of buzz for sure. And you could feel even in the stands. I mean, people were obviously, because it's a home crowd, they're obviously disappointed, but at the same time, there's almost like a sense of, wow, holy crap, just a sense of respect. You know what I mean? Like, wow, exactly. Like, hey, that's a heck of a kick, man. So yeah, that was fun to watch, man. And Serge's reaction too, and just like everything, just the way that Serge is just hilarious. He's a gem. So like him watching his reaction, and he had some awesome quotes after the game. I didn't personally speak with him after the game. Would have if they had won, but I didn't. But I'd seen a couple of guys that spoke with him after the game, and some of his quotes talking about, I must have been my mother's, whatever food that she had made me throughout the week, giving me the extra power. Like empanadas, yeah, whatever. It's just stuff like just hilarious, man. Like, so just, but anyways, yeah, that was a really fun moment. It was a fun game. I think the Bombers, Bomber fans, though, for my money, Huss, I think it could be argued that was a really good performance overall, actually. And I say good, but like I don't need to go into the details. I say good, but I think the bar was set so low that it was a good performance in the sense that just based on what we've seen over the last month and a half. But it's just that from a confidence perspective, man. And actually, Huss, last thing, I know you guys got to get going here and go on to your next guest. Last thing I'll actually say on this, that I really wish that we were able to speak with Moshe today. I just can't help but wonder. I'd be curious to wonder if he thinks that his teams need to learn how to win on a season-to-season basis. And I say that because I understand that it's a veteran team, but they still have lots of young guys on that team as well. This is the Bombers' first game where they were like in a matchup, like a one-score game like this of the season. Mm-hmm. Like they've either been blowing teams out or they've been getting blown out themselves. When you got a tight game like this, you got to, as a team, know how to handle this situation. So I just wonder if this team needed that as well. I would say keep this game and this result in the back of your mind, because maybe the next time they're in a situation like this, it's a different story. Maybe they handle it a lot better, because these teams, they do need to learn how to win. And I wonder if on a season-to-season basis, these teams need to learn how to re-win in these kind of a situation. So That's my parting thought.
You know what? That's a great point. And listen, there's a lot of individuals that, haven't been a part of these big wins and runs to the Grey Cup in the past years. And it takes everyone, because there's one missing link, and it can blow the whole thing up. Josh, awesome stuff, buddy. Great work in Calgary. We'll continue to follow your work in the Winnipeg Free Press. And next couple of weeks, we'll have to get you in and talk a little 4-down ball as we get closer to all these fantasy drafts.
Showtime, man. Let's go. I'm ready. Appreciate you, Huss.
Thanks for doing this. Josh Frey-Sam, Winnipeg Free Press. You can check out his 5 takeaways from the game in today's edition of the Winnipeg Free Press. Blue and gold miss golden opportunity in Calgary. Heartbreaker. We're going to bring in our pal Joey Slattery in just a minute. I do want to get to fan feedback, brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees. What you see is what you pay at Fans First. And of course, we're waiting for Jet season to get going, which is such a popular place for buying and selling Jets tickets this year. But the Bombers are also on Fans First, and that's a good thing, because we're trending towards a 10th straight sellout on Friday or Thursday. So if you're looking for tickets and you can't find them at the Bombers, you can probably do it at Fans First. And of course, if you got extra tickets, you can also send them out there. The poll was this. What are you most concerned about right now regarding the Bombers? Secondary runaway winner at 54%, O-line 20%, quarterback play 14%, 12% for the receiving core. I will say this, not good that there is just this many options for a question like that, but time to get back in the win column on Thursday, with what will be a big challenge from the incoming Ottawa Red Blacks. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right. Just before we get to Joey Slattery and a little more with Connor, talking some Blue Jays out of the weekend, head on down to Royal Sports, gang, because you're going to want to get your Bomber gear in time for Thursday's game if you still need. Many of you are already jumping on a Jonathan Taves or a Gabe Velarde jersey. Dylan Samberg, who's got a new contract as well. It's all waiting for you down at Royal Sports, but you can still get some great deals on so much of the best of summer: soccer, softball, baseball, tennis, running, bikes. Of course, that massive Yeti section, it's all there. Oh, by the way, the NHL draft caps are in as well if you were looking for that. It's all waiting for you at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina. Check them out on Instagram and give them a follow for the latest merchandise drops and sale information at Royal Sports Winnipeg. Jays are back in action tomorrow, and Boston Pizza is the best place to get together with your gang to watch the big game right now as we wait for hockey season. The new summer menu is on, and hey, Boston Pizza also making it so your fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. 20-minute guarantee on their $15 lunch specials. If it's not there in 15 minutes, your next one is free. Pop by your local Boston Pizza today. All right, Joey Slattery coming up in just 1 second. Before we bring in Slats, a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's welcome in our buddy, the Slat Man, Joey Slattery. Seab Bears season, regular season is finished, but they are not done. Championship weekend coming to the Peg in a couple of weeks. Joey, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good. I am in the thick of prep because I'm going to be on the road for the playoffs. I'm doing the sidelines for TSN in Calgary and then Vancouver. So, I'm like right in the thick of everything right now. But it's going to be interesting for the Seab Bears. You have that, almost a 2-week break between your last regular season game and then that conference final game. And I don't know who the preferred opponent is, to be totally honest. I mean, this is going to be whoever they get. It's going to be a tough game on that championship weekend conference final, and I'm looking forward to it. But it's going to be a hard road for whatever team gets there too.
Well, let's just, before we kind of look ahead to the playoffs, let's just quickly wrap the regular season. The Seab Bears lost yesterday to Edmonton by 20, I believe. Where are we at here? Yeah, 97-77. That was a road game. Friday night, they had, you can tell me, it certainly looked on the scoreboard like one of their best performances of the season, steamrolling the Brampton Honey Badgers 92-60 at home. And they had a big win against Niagara on Wednesday, 86-81 at home. So, they finish at 11-13. The record's not great. We know that they're going to be in the playoffs. How is the team looking as presently constructed at the end of the season going into the big weekend 2 weeks from now?
I'll say on paper, they're right up there with any other team. I mean, this is a really good roster that they've set, and I feel like they've addressed a lot of holes. But I wouldn't put a lot of stock in either of those games. The Brampton game, for instance, Brampton did not win a single game on the road this year. Last year, Winnipeg won only one game, and that was, the havoc of the season. And this year, Brampton didn't win one. And on that last road trip, they were like struggling to have a team. I think they had like 4 subs at one point on that game in Winnipeg. So they were a bit checked out. But to Winnipeg's credit, they put the hammer down. They didn't have Jalen Harris. They didn't have Simi Chateau. They were both sitting out with injuries, but it's more rest from the sounds of it. If this were a playoff game, they'd be playing. And then they sat out again in Edmonton, didn't even make the trip. So you go into that Edmonton game, Edmonton's playing their last home game of the season in front of a full house. They don't have any home playoff games. So, that was kind of the last hurrah, last send-off for the Stingers. But without Chateau and without Harris, asking the depth guys to do a lot. Will Richardson played well. Kyler Filowich started, and there had been games where he had been scratched this year, right? He hadn't really started since the beginning of the season. So, that game is, as much as it was a 20-point loss, I'm not really concerned by it. That said, Mike Taylor was in the halftime interview, coming out of halftime into the third quarter, he kind of laid it on the team saying, do we want to win this, right? And, the sideline reporter saying a few times where he was calling out the team on knowing plays and things like this. So he was very much treating it, as the last game before playoffs and everybody to get their runs in before, the real show starts. But overall, that Niagara win to me was the big one because it also kind of deflated Niagara. They were coming off 2 losses and then they're going west and then they lost all the games after that against some big Western teams. So, you have Niagara who also has that bye on the east side of the bracket. And, they're looking at it, well, doesn't really matter who we play. We lost to all of the playoff teams, going into if they were to make the finals. So they, if anything, they really rattled the confidence of Niagara possibly. So that game to me was the one where I felt like I would read more into that one. That was a good game. Everybody was playing, and Niagara's the defending champions, and a lot of players are returning. They even added Ahmed Hill, who's one of the best players in the CBL for a number of years, or one of the better ones at least. He was one of the best ones on Montreal before he shifted over. So I took some stock into that win. But the big thing is now is if Simi Chateau and Jalen Harris are going to be healthy, right? So Jalen Harris is dealing with some back issues. For Simi Chateau, it was a leg issue. Kind of got tangled up with a player in that Niagara game where apparently it was his shin that was, acting up a little bit. So they rested him as precautionary, more or less. But if these guys are full strength, the chemistry's been building up as they've gone on. I think this is an opportunity for them to really shock, right? The last 3 hosts didn't win this game. They've had awful seasons. And, Mike Taylor pointed that out in his last post game before heading out to Edmonton, that they've played a lot more competitive. The record's not what fans want for sure. They were a game away from 500. But at the end of the day, this was a competitive team, and they had a really slow start. They had that, 4 or 5 game losing streak to, after that first win of the season, and they were really clawing back from there. But now they have their team. They've got great options, but there's some concerns there as well in terms of what those options are because of the American, well, I shouldn't say American, but the import rule where they have 6 Americans and only 4 can play in a game.
Slats, so we move on. They'll be practicing. They'll be doing their thing, getting ready for about a week and a half. You said you're heading on the road. Now, here's how things shake out. The Seab Bears actually ended up finishing 4th in the West.
Yeah.
So Vancouver and Niagara were your top 2 teams. Fill us in on what's happening this week and how we're determining who will be playing in Winnipeg along with the Seab Bears for championship weekend.
Sure. So the for the West Side, that's the one that everybody would care more about. Is so there's the play-in game. So that'll be in Calgary. Edmonton's playing Calgary. Always great when it's a battle of Alberta. It doesn't matter if it's the NHL, CFL, CEBL. They've had some great tilts this year and in the last 3 years, really. So that'll be a good game. But the Vancouver game is key because then they move on to Vancouver on Saturday. So that game will be Thursday, and then the conference semifinal will be on Friday or Saturday rather. And that one is going to be interesting because Vancouver to me is the best team in this league, right? They lost Corey Davis Jr., who's one of the top point guards in this league, and they still were crushing teams like just left, right, and center. Even their last game, I don't remember what the score was, but it was like 30-something points. I think Mitch Creek had 30 points. Tyrese Samuel had 30 points. Like, this team is dialed in. There's something about the culture out there that's been working. They made minor tweaks to their roster, but it seems like they've got the guys that are there to play Vancouver Bandits basketball, and they lost that game last year by a very slim margin in Niagara. So they have that, fuel that they want to get their revenge from last year, and they'd love nothing more than to see Niagara. But that's the path here. Is you've got the play-in game. Whoever wins that will go to Vancouver, and the winner of that comes to Winnipeg, and we'll play Winnipeg. But Winnipeg's beaten all these teams too, right? They've been beaten by these teams, but they've beaten they've beaten Calgary, they've beaten Edmonton, and they've beaten Vancouver. But I will say with the Edmonton one, it was earlier in the season when Edmonton, was just kind of getting started out. They've been on the upward trajectory pretty much all season since the start of the year. Scotty Lindsey's playing great. People probably remember him from the Seab Bears last year. Played much better with Edmonton this year than he played with Winnipeg last year as a three-point shooter. And Sean East, the second, who I think, is probably going to be a lock for the MVP. He just eclipsed Teddy Allen's single season record for points in a single season. So this is a team that's, hit some milestones that has built up and seems to be peaking at the right time. And Calgary, if Calgary gets through, that's the only team Vancouver hasn't beaten. Calgary beat them 3 times this year. So that's what I mean, where it's like you can't even say like, well, Vancouver is the favorite and they're going to roll through. If Calgary gets through Edmonton, I think Vancouver's that mental game they got to get through. Like, you just got to win that one game, but we lost the last 3. And if Edmonton wins that game in Calgary, it almost feels like they're playing with house money. So it's a very dangerous conference. It's nowhere near as interesting on the Eastern side. Like, I'm pretty sure Niagara's going to get through. Ottawa's been playing well. That'd be like my second favorite to get through the East. But the West is going to be such a grind. And, when you look at it that way, I kind of anticipate some heavy games, right? In terms of, it's going to be physical, it's going to be high scoring, it's going to be physically demanding. Whereas, if Niagara or Ottawa can have a couple of snoozers on the way in, they might be better rested, and that might be the gift for the East side of the bracket this year. But I do think Winnipeg, despite the record, has a good chance. But there's going to be some key decisions. I just want to touch on that the import issue, because what Mike Taylor did is he's overstocked his imports, right? So you can have 6 on your team on the 14-man roster, but you can only dress 4 on the 12-man roster for a game day. So that's going to be really tough decisions because they're very impactful players. Trayvon Scott and Will Richardson, they came in to replace Jalen Williams and Terry Roberts when they went off to Summer League. And they impressed. I don't think anybody thought they were going to be that good, right? Like, I think Mike Taylor kind of thought they'll come in, they'll fill the hole. Hopefully we can get a few wins and, maybe we keep them, maybe we don't. But, Terry Roberts is going to come back in and Jalen Williams, and we'll figure the rest out later. Well, Jalen Williams came back. He sat out a number of games to make room for Trayvon Scott. Terry Roberts is back now. We weren't sure if he was coming back, and he's playing like he hasn't missed a beat. Him and Will Richardson have been awesome together, but Jalen Harris is American. Jaron Cumberland, who has NBA experience, is also an American, and he was the guy that was brought up at the last second, really, because they weren't sure if Terry Roberts was coming back. Now he's there. So, yeah, you've got a big American roster here, and I don't know how Mike Taylor is going to form the lineups, because it's really going to come down on a case-by-case basis, but you can make an argument to put any 4 of those, like outside of Jalen Harris. I think Jalen Harris doesn't get sat. I don't know if you can sit Terry Roberts or Will Richardson right now. So then it becomes, the big man. Is it Trayvon Scott? Is Jalen Williams the odd man out? I can kind of see Jaron Cumberland just sitting out simply because he hasn't had the runway with the team like everybody else did in terms of building chemistry. But the other thing that can bring is the ego part of it, right? easy to sit out a regular season game, but when you've come up to Canada and play in this league you might not have heard of, and now you're a healthy scratch simply because you're American, that could bring some other issues. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's there yet. Like seeing the team, they seem like everybody's cool and they all say that they're just there to win, but put it into action. Could there be a little bit of drama there as well, right? Or something that you're dealing with the locker room now because one player is unhappy because they came up here on a whim, to win, and they want to be on that active roster for the win, if that makes sense.
I guess you just mentioned, so once we get to the championship weekend, is there a West final and an East final? Like Winnipeg will play either Vancouver or Calgary, which is wild because every team in the West outside Winnipeg has a better record than the teams in the East. So certainly I would imagine the West will be a favorite in the final, but it'll be a very tough matchup for Winnipeg against either Vancouver, or if Calgary or Edmonton can upset them on the road on Saturday with whoever wins the play-in.
Oh, 100%. And that's, so it'll be a doubleheader, right? So I believe the Eastern Conference one would be the first part of the doubleheader. The West would be the primetime game. But it's, like the East, I think if I don't have the standings on me right now, but Niagara would have been basically battling with Winnipeg for fourth place in the West. And they finished, lengthy. They had a bit of pad. They lost a bunch of games towards the end, but if they were in a race, I imagine they wouldn't have lost as many games. But like they clinched their playoff spot, I think like June 28th. Like they've been in cruise control for a while in Niagara, but it's that much stronger in the West. Like for whatever reason this year, Calgary kind of had question marks, and then you see the players that they're courting out, like Greg Brown, the third. He's a guy that he had a posterizing dunk last night on TSN where he just jumped over like 3 Niagara players and just slammed it home. Like this guy is so entertaining. Jameer Nelson Jr., son of Jameer Nelson of the NBA, has been unreal. One of the best defensive players in the league. And then they got Evan Gilliard. Like there's just so many players that, if you haven't heard of them yet, you're going to hear them down the road, whether it's in the CBL. There's so many NBA cusp guys in the league this year. It's nuts. And they're all in the West. And Mitch Creek, to me, from Vancouver, is the best player in this league. And I don't know if he's going to get the accolades he probably should, but here's a guy that, changed the culture of Vancouver. Vancouver was not a great team until Mitch Creek got there last year. They went to the finals. And this year, they've been running the table in the entire league with the exception of Calgary. But that's what makes these storylines so juicy is like, I can't wait to follow along with these playoffs because you've got that Alberta, like right off the hop, you have a Battle of Alberta. Always great. And then you're going to go into Vancouver. And if it is Calgary, then you're like, oh, shoot, Vancouver's got home advantage. Doesn't mean anything when you're playing Calgary, who's been your kryptonite all year. And then when you get to Winnipeg, keep in mind, you're going to be playing in front of, 10 to 15,000 people or whatever the capacity is going to be for that game with the floor seats. And that is something that these guys are not used to. Like when they come to Winnipeg, it is their NBA, right? Like they come in and Winnipeg always gets the best of other teams because that's the circled on the calendar game. They get only 1, maybe 2 games here, depending if they're in the Western Conference and how the schedule falls. But these guys come in ready to play. But when you have that many people on you, you're going to come out of a Langley Event Center that seats like maybe 5,000, right? And then you're going to go up to 15,000 or 10 to 15,000, whatever it's going to be after when we get to that day on ticket sales. But it's going to be ruckus. And with Winnipeg, it's different when it's single game elimination. This whole season's meant essentially nothing in terms of the standings. It didn't matter. They had a bye in the conference final. This will be the first time we see Winnipeg with something on the line, and I'm really interested to see how they respond. But seeing the competitiveness of guys like Simi Shitu and, Jalen Harris, like when they get in the game, like these guys, like Simi's a NBA fringe guy. He's played in top level European leagues. Jalen was a second-round draft pick of the Toronto Raptors. Like these are guys that want to win, and they're going to be in their environment. They're not going to fold at that, in front of fans that or an atmosphere like that where you have so many fans because they've done it professionally, not just in college.
It's going to be a really fun weekend. This isn't this weekend. It's the following weekend. Get your tickets for the championship weekend. The Seab Bears will be playing in the West game on the Thursday before the final. Hey, just on the way out, you mentioned you're going to be out doing these games for TSN. When can people watch them?
Oh, great. Now you have me on the spot. No, it's, I think it's an 8:00 local time start on the Thursday on TSN. And then it's an afternoon one. So I believe it's a 2:30 start Central Time for the conference semifinal, all on TSN, but you could also watch it on CEBL Plus or TSN Plus if you have the app. So yeah, it'll be through there. And of course, I'll still be on Instagram doing my thing, trying to keep up with the Seab Bears while I'm on the road. But, you can follow me along there at Joey Slattery TV. We hope to have a podcast episode out too before I go, at Target Score WPG on Instagram and at Target Score Podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. But yeah, it's going to be a busy couple of weeks, Huss. I'm looking forward to it. But I think come August 25th, I'm probably going to sleep until 2 p.m.
Hey, buddy, pack those bags. Get ready to look good on the tube on the weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here for championship weekend next week. We'll definitely do something before we tip it off with whoever is the Sea Bears opponent next week. Thanks for doing this, Lots.
Sounds good. I just want to say, you said Josh Frey-Sam to talk fantasy. I just want to point out the disrespect that I finished the regular season demolishing the Media League last year. I think I'm your pro there. I don't know if you want Josh on that.
Last year was an off year. As you can remember, Josh and I in the finals of the inaugural year, there were many things that conspired to undo our seasons, but
excuses.
Look forward.
Excuses. It's that time of year, Huss. Let's get the trash talk going.
I'm into it. Joey, take it easy, buddy. Thanks again.
Sounds good, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
We're going to get Connor in here in just a minute to help us finish up the show. I just want to get to the Blue Jays, and we'll definitely get to the Cool Bet lines. No Jays tonight. They're back at it tomorrow. You know what else is back at it tomorrow? Assiniboia Downs is back tomorrow. We will to see the Ponies Tuesday and Wednesday this week, Tuesday and Wednesday next week. The next Monday live racing is August 25th. If you like Mondays, that'll be the next time. But throughout the summer and through September into October, live racing Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 7:30 post time at Assiniboia Downs. Join us tomorrow for our picks against the spread. And, of course, our friends at the Gold Eyes just finished up a weekend against the Lincoln Salt Dogs. The Salt Dogs won on Saturday. It was the Gold Eyes coming back with a big 8-7 win yesterday. And that was nice to to finish it off. The Gold Eyes now continuing their homestand tomorrow against the Cleburne Railroaders. That's manager's former team. So we get a Texas team. They only come up here once a year. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday out at the ballpark, 982 base, goldeyes.com. I'm fixing to get there on Wednesday night with a bunch of friends for the ballpark. Hopefully the weather will be nice, but you know where to go. Blue Cross Park, Gold Eyes Baseball. It ain't Winnipeg summer without it. Grab your tickets now for the Cleburne Railroaders series this week. And hey, Manitoba Open just around the corner. I'm actually going down for the media day tomorrow at Breezy Bend, and I think I'll do the show from Breezy, which will be a nice little tune-up before next week, where we've got live shows on the road for rounds 1 and rounds 2 from Breezy Bend for the biggest tournament of the year here in the province, PGA Tour Americas. Some of the future stars of the PGA Tour will be joining us. So should be a lot of fun. Go to manitobaopen.com for more information on the tournament, ticket availability, and details on how it's all going to work. And breezybend.ca for more information on making Breezy your long-term golfing home for next season. All right, let's get Connor back in here. Connor, you're a big Sea Bears guy. Go to most of the games. I know you were moving on the weekend, which sucks, and took you out of the operation for the Friday game. But you've watched a lot of these games. Do you have hope that maybe the Sea Bears can come up with a big performance on home court next week when it really counts for the first time this season in an all-or-nothing game?
I have hope just because every time I watch the Sea Bears, I see a very talented team that just can't really put it together for a full game or a stretch of games. They've had so many games this year where they've blown out a team or they've gotten blown out by 20, 30 plus points. And those swings over the course of the season has resulted in the record that they have, being a team that in no way, shape, or form should be in the Final Four. But because they're hosting, they are. And I don't know. I think for one, 40-minute target score game, because it's 10-minute quarters, not even the fourth quarter doesn't even go the full 10, because obviously there's target score after that. For one game, I think a very talented team can make some noise and maybe shock the world. And are they the best team in the CBL? Were they over the course of the season? Absolutely not. But I see a very talented team, and I love the insight from Joey on where this team is at heading into this championship weekend, because I don't know. I think they could surprise. And it's interesting that no host team has ever, won, even though they get the bye to the Final Four. But yeah, the Seab Bears, after a tough season, I could see them putting together one, maybe two good games in a row and maybe shocking the world.
That's all they
the
need.
CBL world. That's all they need. That's it.
Hey, we've seen teams bow out in the first round of the CHL playoffs and then win the Memorial Cup. So hopefully that can happen next week for the Seab Bears. I just pulled up Major League Baseball standings, and as we head into an off day today for the Toronto Blue Jays, the Jays have now a 4-game lead over the Boston Red Sox, despite losing the first 2 against the Dodgers, a 6.5-point lead over the New York Yankees, and do sit atop not just the AL East, but the entire American League with 69 wins on the season. But holy smokes, a heart-stopping win yesterday, Connor, that Blue Jays fans will be talking about for a long time. Honestly, one of the most epic regular season games I can remember. And there's a lot of them every single year. Yeah. But you do wonder if that win, the way that it happened, the big hits, the homer, Vladdy and Ernie Clement in the top of the 9th, and then Fluharty coming in and being the hero was exactly what the doctor ordered after 2 really tough outings against the team that is truly the team to beat in the majors in the Dodgers.
And 2 future Hall of Famers. Fluharty comes in and sits them both down, strikes out Ohtani with the sweeping curveball, and then gets Betts to roll over. Like, what am I watching? Baseball is such a fun sport in that regard. Some random reliever can just come out of the pen and strike out or sit down 2 future Hall of Famers to win a game with the bases loaded. But the Jays, it's really interesting because if you follow, the beat reporters and some of the fans online and the Twitter, the Blue Jays Twitterverse, you'd think that they've been struggling as of late, but you look at their last 10 and they're 6-4. And they're 4-2 on this last 6-game road trip. They won the final game against the Dodgers. I know the first 2 didn't quite go their way, but I think I agree, Huss. Like, if they can tread water and go 6-4 in their tough stretches of the season, and then have these momentum building wins like the one against the Dodgers on Sunday, and then you roll it into this Cubs series. The Cubs also a very good team, and you kind of get that swagger going with the Blue Jays. They could start going on a real run again, because as we know, I mean, they were winning almost every single series from the start or from the end of May through to the All-Star break. So this team is so much fun to watch. I mean, they're never out of it all season long. They've been the comeback kids. No matter how much they're down, they're never out of it. Vladdy and Barger going back-to-back solo shots to give them the lead. And then Hoffman walks in a run. And then Ernie Clement, he's been like Barry Bonds against lefties this year, hits a homer to put him up in the 9th. And then, Fluharty coming in, saving the day there. Definitely got Blue Jays fever this summer, Huss. I'm not usually this into baseball, but the Blue Jays are making it easy to tune in night after night, and usually walking away pleasantly surprised with how they're playing.
I'm right there with you. I mean, I think I've been watching pretty much every single game for about a month now or so, certainly coming out of the All-Star break with where they are at. But this series, I mean, seeing and what Ohtani did in the first 2 games, I mean, he is just, listen, if there's a Dodgers game on, I'm looking at where they are in the batting order, and I'm usually waiting around to see an Ohtani at bat. But that game had everything, and it was a huge win for Toronto to avoid being swept and put themselves into a pretty good position heading into that big game with the Chicago Cubs. Cubs are now 6 games back of the Brewers. Milwaukee just simply does not lose anymore. They've put another 9-game winning streak together. I think there's something like 23 or 24-4 since the All-Star break. I mean, it has just been phenomenal. And the Cubs have just sort of been middling at 5-5 heading into this series tomorrow. But the Cubs do have 67 wins on the season. So it is very much a big one. Just actually going to look ahead to the starters expected for tomorrow in that Blue Jays Cubs game. We're going to get Brown for the Cubs and Berrios for the Blue Jays. Wednesday is shaping up to be Horton versus Kevin Gausman, and the Thursday finale, which will probably be a day game, 2:07, Scherzer against Boyd. That'll be a heck of a pitching matchup. So we'll talk some more Jays tomorrow heading into the series. But let's head over to the Coolbet lines right now. We'll wait for CFL lines for tomorrow for CFL 110. I did see some books, though, had the Bombers opening at 7 or 6.5 point favorites against the Ottawa Redblacks, which, to be honest, was a little surprising to me. As far as the majors go right now, what do we have tonight? We got the Phillies at the Reds. Phillies now up comfortably on the Mets, who just were the latest team to get swept by the Milwaukee Brewers. Phillies have a 5.5 game lead, yet they're plus 105 dogs tonight to the Reds. The Twins are in the Bronx to take on the Yankees. All Jays fans will be pulling for the Twins tonight. Twins plus 153. You've got the Tigers. First place Tigers minus 147 in Chicago against the White Sox. The Royals minus 154 favorites at home against the Nats. Those Brewers, who just don't lose to anybody, minus 208 favorites at home against the Pirates. Cardinals tonight minus 213 against the Rockies. Rockies have lost 7 in a row. And just a quick update on their run differential, it's now minus 329. They're approaching being 200 runs worse in the differential than the next closest team, the Washington Nationals, that are minus 143. Hard to believe how bad that team is. Other games tonight, D-backs at Rangers. Rangers a minus 164 home dog. Red Sox, Astros. Boston's a big road favorite, minus 172. Dodgers minus 175 against the Angels. Padres, Giants is a big game tonight. The Padres plus 110 dogs on the road. And basically a pick'em between the Rays and the Athletics. As I mentioned, we will have CFL lines tomorrow and NFL preseason lines not quite up yet, but all the futures are up. And don't forget, we're going to be getting into those futures later on this week. We're going to do 2 futures episodes of WST Winners presented by Coolbet, which reminds me as well, any of you cool bettors out there that would like to potentially win a trip to the Labor Day Classic with me and the 1930 crew, what you need to do is just do a screen cap of any $10 wager, include it with your Coolbet username and how we get a hold of you, and email it to contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. Contest, no S at the end, just contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. Everyone entering will get a marble. A week Friday, we'll be doing the draw, and somebody will be winning 2 seats, a value of well over $1,000 to come and join us. Tickets to the Labor Day Classic, transportation to and from Winnipeg to Regina, and a whole lot of fun on the way. Transportation to the game. We've got a dinner that's going to be set up for everybody on the Saturday. Food when you get there, swag bag. It's going to be amazing. If you want more information on the trip, I think there is a couple left. If you want to just lock those down with your friends, go to the 1930crew.com or the 1930 crew on Instagram or Twitter. But definitely, if you are a cool better, and hey, if you just want to get in on the draw, go over to Coolbet, throw 10 on the Bombers to win on the weekend, and throw in your entry, contest@winnipegsportstalk.com, and good luck to you all. This has been a fun show today. We really didn't get to too much NFL preseason. We will have some NFL talk later on this week, though, Connor, but overall, I think this is kind of a quieter sports day, especially with the Jays off. We can sort of regather after what was crazy. And I mean, I know I talked with Dusty about this earlier. Tommy Fleetwood, my God, another blown Sunday afternoon back 9 lead for a guy that is so popular.
Way.
He just can't get, no way. Exactly. I mean, hey, the second and third place checks cash too. but it's tough. But tonight, no Blue Jays, kind of do a little bit of scoreboard watching. Off day for the Bombers. Tomorrow will be their 1 day of practice, so we'll certainly have to be on top of that. And then look forward to kicking off the slate this weekend, Thursday night, in a game that, hand up, I am very nervous about. I mean, just what Drew Brown was able to do in coming against, as opposed to where the defense and that secondary is right now. I will not be spending too much time thinking about betting the Bombers in this game. I just hope they can find a way to win. They almost were able to do it against Calgary, but what we saw in the second half of that game, even beforehand, was concerning. And I mean, maybe the biggest question mark is going to be about this team is going to be the injury report as to how many guys on the defensive side of the football are out and who's going to be in trying to hold it down in their absence.
Yeah, you saw, players get healthy and get back into the lineup this past week with Stanley Bryant returning, Zach Collaros returning, Dylan Mitchell not really returning from an injury, but he got into the lineup for the first time. So it's going to shift more to the defensive side of the ball. We're not expecting Dalton Schoen to be back at this week for sure. I mean, there hasn't really been any news on him ever since the injury, that it would be a couple of weeks or longer. So hopefully we get an update on him soon, and he's, tracking in the right direction to return at some point this season, because I'm getting nervous about Dalton Schoen as well. And the Bombers offense is an offense that needs a guy like him healthy and running around out there. Just on CoolBet, Huss, I was looking around. There's those NFL specials. I'm very excited to be producing the WST winners, NFL futures coming up. Let me pose a question to you. CoolBet has odds for Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin's next teams. Parsons is a -303 to remain on the Cowboys, and McLaurin is -370 to remain on the Commanders. Which of those two do you think is more likely to be moved from their current team, Huss? Both in contract stalemates.
Funny.
Parsons with the Cowboys, McLaurin with the Commanders.
It is a great question. I think they both stay, but for the question, I think it's McLaurin. And just that Micah Parsons is way too damn good and way too important to the Cowboys to lose him. Like the defensive analytic numbers of the Cowboys defense when Parsons was in was first or second in literally everything. When he was out, it was near the bottom. I mean, the guy is a game wrecker on his own. I love Terry McLaurin. I think he's a hell of a player. I understand why he's trying to get more right now with what he's done with so many different quarterbacks and having the season that he had last year. But he is, I believe, 30 years old. And to me, it's more realistic that they just get fed up with it and move it, although I think it would be a terrible move, and Daniels is going to need him. They brought in Deebo Samuel. I mean, it's unfortunate this is happening right now. But I can't see any scenario where the Cowboys, no matter what Micah Parsons says, actually trades him, because that significantly changes their defense to a defense that can be elite to a defense that might not have a lot of answers for what's getting thrown at them in that division.
Man, he's probably the best defensive player in the entire NFL. Like, it's him or Myles Garrett or TJ Watt. How do you trade him? If you're Jerry Jones, this is the big Dallas Cowboys playing in Jerry World. Like, how are you not just going to write a blank check for this guy? And the reports that are coming out from Parsons' side of things is like, oh, we haven't even been talked to. We haven't even been presented with anything. It's like, why are you treating a player who, apparently, looking on CoolBet, has the #1 odds to win the Defensive Player of the Year, tied with Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson? Yeah. Why are you fooling around with this guy? Like, just pay him. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, as a Cowboys hater, I'm loving it, but
listen, I'm here for it too. I mean, the dysfunction and Jerry, ricochet shots to Dak Prescott, and talking to him. Well, we paid Dak and he wasn't out there for us last year. I mean, he can't get out of his own way sometimes.
Yeah.
No, but listen, I'm always here for the show. But as I say, I can't imagine under any circumstance Parsons not being a part of it. One of the other funny NFL specials they have at CoolBet is the Browns starting quarterback for week 1. I think Joe Flacco is easy money at -156 on this, to be honest with you. Kenny Pickett's been hurt. It's not going to be him. Shadur Sanders, 13-1. Shadur had a nice little preseason start. unbelievable walk-in, by the way, with one of his buddies and his entourage with a massive speaker playing his own unreleased music. But it was the guy with the scythe or the big staff walking stick. That was one of the most bizarre things I've seen. Shitter's 13-1, Dylan Gabriel 14-1. The reason why Flacco is there is so they don't have to throw in one of these young men in week number 1. So I'd be stunned if that wasn't Joe Flacco. Colts starting quarterback week 1 is interesting. They've got Anthony Richardson minus 250, Danny Jones at plus 185. And the last time I looked, Anthony Richardson's finger was 90 degrees the wrong way after the game yesterday. So maybe it is Jones. That might be interesting to take a look at. Again, there's still a lot of time before the start of the season, so we will see. And then there's also, you want to talk about the best of a bad lot. The other one, New Orleans Saints quarterback week 1. Here are your options. Spencer Rattler, minus 244. Tyler Show, the rookie, plus 195. Jake Haener, 40-1. So anyways, have some fun there with those specials. And the NFL futures is, though, where you can spend a lot of time right now with win totals, league leaders, make the playoffs, rushing and receiving props. This is a fun thing, and we'll be getting together with Jake. Connor will be in the mix, and then Patty in a couple of weeks will rejoin us after he gets back from Estonia to make his favorite futures before it all gets going. And yes, Fridays, 10 a.m. throughout the football season, we will have the live edition of WST Winners with the weekly NFL picks all throughout the season. Connor, great stuff. Just getting going. Big day tomorrow. We'll get the latest from the lone bomber practice of the week and start focusing in on Thursday night. And, of course, a big series against the Blue Jays tomorrow. By the way, everybody, Morency coming on this week. We'll hopefully have Feinberg make an appearance as well. Later on, I think Johnny Junta, very excited. Blue Jays, leader of the Blue Jays Nation, if you will, from Gate 14. So we'll have a lot of fun tomorrow on the program. As I mentioned, I am planning on being out at Breezy, and I can't remember. Mike or Ken are going to will jump on with us. We'll have some more on the tourney. Maybe get Ryan Hart to sit down with us and start looking ahead to that game on the weekend. A little bit of NFL talk as well as we get closer to the kickoff of the regular season. And who knows, maybe some Jets news at some point, but probably won't expect any this week. Connor, thanks so much for doing this today. As always, thanks to everyone for hanging out with us. Thanks to Josh, Joey, and Josh Frey-Sam, and of course, Brandon Rewucki for jumping on today, and Andrew Z for getting us on and off the air while Remus is away. Huge thanks to all the sponsors that make things happen each and every day as well for you all. I hope you guys have a great night. Enjoy whatever it is you're watching without much football or the Jays on tonight, and we will see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And don't forget, tomorrow, big edition of CFL 110. Already excited to talk about these games again with Hammer, and I know he'll be locked in. We'll have that for you tomorrow coming out of WST. For Connor Hrabchak, I'm Andrew Paterson. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.